Greetings, nerds. This is SNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, Sarah. How are you doing this evening?
Doing all right. It's Sunday. We're doing an early show. I have a 3-day weekend.
Oh, nice.
Because universities love their spring breaks.
Oh, very nice.
We get a spring recess on Friday.
Very good.
And Thursday night, we get to record again because we're doubling up. Going to talk some Arrowverse shows. Spoiler alert for that. I watched the Flash premiere, and I think I fell asleep. We'll definitely get into it Thursday. I got some very long rants about the Flash.
Yeah. Well, hopefully Tuesday's episode will keep your interest more. Yeah, I'm looking forward to. Yeah, we got back-to-back episodes this week, so hopefully everybody will enjoy the double dose of SNN Nerd this week.
Yeah. Not only are we going to be talking about the Flash and its season, but we're also going to finally give a full in-depth discussion about Superman and Lois, and that is right on time considering it's going on early hiatus because COVID was on set.
Yes. Yeah, I saw that Friday, and thankfully Supergirl is coming to the rescue. But of course it's final season, and I think they were supposed to start. Was it in May? I think originally, or late April. But fortunately, they have some episodes in the can because Superman's getting bumped to. I think new episodes will return either in late April or May due to production delays due to COVID.
Jeez. Just when you thought we were past it, you know?
Yeah.
In a weird way, things were being shot again, shows were coming back. Granted, still very uncertain about how this will all play out, considering length and knowing when will we get that new fall season, you know?
Yeah.
It kind of feels like this is a bridge. Whatever we're seeing right now are a bridge, and we're just no, I want the fall season excitement. There's something about it that it's very much like the MCU being taken away from us for a year, and to finally have it back, and after 9 episodes, it's the MCU is back.
It's back. And wow, is it back? Yeah, I know we'll get into it here in a minute, but you're right. It's just when we were talking before we started recording tonight, just how things have changed so much in the course of a year, and just when you think, like you said, just when you think things are starting to look a little bit like normal and having new things back, daggone virus just reminds all of us that I'm still around.
Yeah, definitely. And then speaking about Marvel has announced, but I think that Feige already announced this a Comic-Con ago. He did mention the mutants were coming. He just like he did with Fantastic Four, I thought, during that ending speech.
Yeah, so I think the only thing that Feige has confirmed as far as mutants is Deadpool is in the MCU. But this story actually came from a fan site called the Illuminati that said, I guess it was Friday, that there's the mutants are coming to the MCU, but in this new series called The Mutants, and it's supposed to maybe reboot the X-Men and the MCU, or really not much detail, but it was, according to their sources, this is a mutant show mutants coming to the MCU, and of course more to follow. But I have, but as far as anything directly officially from Marvel Studios or Feige or any of the other, more trades like Deadline or Hollywood Reporter or Rap or anybody else, no one else is run with this other than I think I've seen it in people like us talking about it, but nothing more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still think it's too soon. I want some space. With WandaVision wrapping up, and it's wrapping up as much as the MCU ever wraps up anything.
Yeah.
There's such a narrative going on right now that I don't want them to sprinkle in more characters just because they feel like, oh, now we own these guys. So
yeah.
And people like the stories that they're telling right now, when the time is right, they'll introduce them. And I mean, that's kind of why we didn't get what everybody was kind of theorizing about. Mm-hmm. Oh, I see Magneto pop up at WandaVision and on all this stuff. It's like, no, it's way too early. It's not currently a part of her story.
Right.
And what would be the overall point? Granted, we did get to play a lot with Quicksilver, even though his payoff was a bit lame, if you ask me.
What a bonehead decision there.
Yeah. Just saying. And I mean, they've already. I'm more anxious for that for Feige to present us with like the Fantastic Four than the mutants at this point.
Yeah, I think that we had 12. I didn't realize this, but I guess it was like 12 films or that that Fox produced in that universe, and so I think you're right. We do need some space, and once they are introduced, if they are introduced in the MCU beyond Deadpool, I think it needs to the story. It should be an evolution in the story that requires them to open that door,
right?
And not just because fans want it, because we trust Feige so much,
right? And that door is going to look different than the door we've created in our minds, because WandaVision, very different, and yet everyone will always say this is Feige's take on House of M. Like, it's not an exact replica or anything, but it's as close as we're going to get. And I know a lot of us really want the Phoenix storyline. Selfishly, I really want someone to do Rogue and Gambit right. We've talked about this.
Yep.
I need that love story play out live action wise in my lifetime, because it means a lot to me when I was a kid. Nostalgia, please. Anyway, let's get into the love story that is WandaVision, and the series finale, which hats off to the writers coming up with these names. I love the names of these episodes. They are so perfect.
They are. They really are. Yeah, I mean that. And I also hats off to the writers for all the misdirection, given that this show is based in magic, and so many tricks and misdirection that they threw out there that people, us included, everybody who's probably listening to us included, and they're coming up with crazy theories and things that we just like latched onto. It's gonna be that, and then of course it turns out it was a house of cards that came quickly crumbling down with everything that transpired in the series finale. But for me, honestly, that I wasn't upset about it. I was actually like, as you know, and as folks have listened to us, when this series first premiered, I was not on board at all. I was not. I even recall saying, these are like two characters in the MCU that I was like, oh yeah, Wanda, oh yeah, Vision. They were kind of like, okay. I was like, take it or leave it. And by the end, I'm like, all right, y'all, don't bug me today. I'm putting the mute button on because I didn't want to be spoiled. So,
right.
To me, this was just a real genius of storytelling and taking characters that, at its core, I mean, this was an origin of obviously of the Scarlet Witch, but us also really giving us a full love story that about Wanda and Vision, and really made us all care about these characters, including the theory spiraling.
I think it goes beyond caring about the characters so much as just a reminder of how much narrative the MCU has developed since Iron Man 1.
Yeah.
Because last week, with the whole flashbacks and retcon that was happening, you're reliving moments or that you've told yourself, I already know what happens. And then it twisted it in such a way, and retconned, but still made it still feel like, like I'm given more of this, and it didn't feel repetitious.
Not at all.
It felt authentic. It felt new. It felt like purposeful, and it felt very much like this is what I've been missing, and it took us a while to get there, but they had other things to worry about.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing about the MCU. You do have this expansive narrative, and you have all these characters that it's hard to from Ultron to really show this love affair. The attraction is there. We all know the shot. There's one shot in particular of like, oh, okay, I see where they're going with that.
Yeah.
And then you get a few scenes in Civil War, and then I still think that when we recorded Infinity War, I was all about Wanda.
Yeah, you were.
She was great. So, and this was just like, you know what? We're not going to have too much Wanda in Endgame, but she's going to get 9 episodes, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, yeah.
And Elizabeth Olsen nailed it. Paul Bettany nailed it. Catherine Hahn, the new Loki, from what I understand, the witch that we never thought we needed.
Yep.
And we got. who just is going to definitely be around in one form or another. And I was mixed about the finale. I will be perfectly honest with you, Will.
Okay.
And because I hate the internet. I hate the internet because the internet does this thing, and here's why maybe it should have been released all in one take, Will.
No.
Because if it was released all in one take, there wouldn't be all of these theory spirals. There wouldn't be all of this missed expectations, because we would have been able to just watch it from start to finish. No time to tell us, oh, Dormammu is behind this, or oh, this guy's behind it, or oh, Pietro is definitely 5 different people and they're all bad.
See, I disagree with you there. I know. So there is what the fans want, or not maybe want, but there's what people had constructed as far as like what this must be, as far as like fandom and people who are like true Marvel files who like read everything in the comics and blah blah blah. And then there's other fans, and one of the things that I think that's so genius about the MCU is that you don't have to be so steeped in the lore that you can still enjoy it, because they tell such great stories. And so I think because it was released weekly, it was one. It just gave, it became water cooler talk again. That's it's definitely that. I think there is something to allowing that shared cultural experience, and especially in the times that we're living in right now, that gives us all something to look forward to.
Right. No, I agree. You didn't let me finish my point.
Okay. Sorry.
I just threw that out there as potentially, because those are the complaints that people have about this episode right now.
Yeah, right.
Is it didn't play out exactly as I had created in my mind for it to play out, which ironically, series finales never do.
Exactly.
So I also went very meta, and I was like, oh, okay. I don't know if they intentionally did this, but that's pretty genius. because as soon as I saw it was called the series finale, I'm like, this is. I wonder how they're gonna do this because there's just very few series finales that are actually like, oh my god, best episode of the season. Right. And I also think last week's episode was probably the best episode of this show, in my opinion.
I agree.
But this episode did everything it had to do. And the Agatha stuff, the Agatha battle, I didn't like, and I wasn't fully engaged in, because as soon as they showed the runes scene during the previously on portion, I was like, oh, okay, they're gonna use that.
Yeah.
But what I was not anticipating, and I'm just like, we need just a Vision show, is the new, how do I explain this? The new Vision scene that will be iconic, where Vision is facing against himself and they talk about what makes a person, or what makes Vision. Oh, like, I kept thinking about the Ultron Vision scene from Age of Ultron.
Yep.
Like, we were talking last week about the scene with Wanda and Vision watching Malcolm in the Middle and talking about grief and everything, and it's like, that, where was that scene in Captain America? Well, this was like, where is that scene? Like, I felt like it was an extension of the one he had with Ultron. And Paul Bettany apparently just played us all.
Yep.
It really was. He was talking about himself, which I'm not mad at it, because the dialogue in that scene was just crazy.
It was.
Love it. I love it so much.
Yeah, I love that scene. I mean, and I guess whenever I had interrupted your train of thought as far as dropping it in its whole versus in its weekly, I think that's where those types of scenes, and the scenes we had last week, where when we were talking about grief, that's where I think the more traditional dropping it week, to let those kind of things massage and really percolate the consciousness and discussions, because that metaphysical discussion, I mean, it's something that is very universal, something that is played out in it took me back to my college philosophy class, and just discussions that you have, like, what makes you as a person, and what makes you as a being, and clearly using the ship of thesis from Greek mythology, Greek philosophy, building something down and then bringing it back up, and that's the great storytelling, like that makes the MCU so universally approachable, instead of just being this thing that only Marvel files can get into. Because I'm a geek, but I'm not, like, I mentioned multiple times here, I'm not well versed in Marvel as I am in DC. But because it's just such great storytelling that they have been able to do, not only in this show, but in the previous 20 films that we have, for the most part, gotten from this, and in particular from Ultron, because I think Ultron really was like the turning point in some regards to, because when you get Winter Soldier, really, and then going into Ultron, the Civil War, and all the films from that. I feel that's where the MCU, when we were in Phase 2, really became this universal thing, that just great stories that fans who were building up all these theories that they thought was going to happen, and fans who were like me, who were like, well, I'm just trying to pull together. Yeah, I'm having theories following for the fun of it, but but if it doesn't turn out the way that I thought it was going to, I'm okay with that. And then the fan who doesn't,
Because Feige's smarter than all of us.
Yeah, and then the fan who doesn't have any lore, but just really loves this cool stuff that like shows up and watches it. There's something there for everybody.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think I keep thinking about how in Endgame everyone was like, really? We're gonna go back to Thor 2? Out of all the movies, we have to go back to Thor 2 to get an Infinity Stone.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's the same thing here, where Age of Ultron honestly is not a favorable movie in the MCU, and yet I'm sure a lot of people have went back during the course of WandaVision just to rewatch it, because that's where it all started for this character. Well, for both of them really, it was Age of Ultron.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much connections, and I love as always when these episodes end, Age of Ultron comes up.
Yep, it does.
And even before that, I was rewatching MCU movies. I didn't rewatch Age of Ultron. I was rewatching other ones. But I have rewatched it in the past, and it's not entirely bad.
No,
there are worse MCU movies.
Yeah. One of the things that I thought, I was thinking when you were earlier in our discussion tonight, as far as when you were talking about the stories and the characters, and one of the things where it didn't feel like it's repetitious was the Legends series. I don't know if you watched any of those.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, watch them. I watched it before WandaVision started, and I watched it again this weekend after finishing the series again, just to rewatch them. They're all four. There are now four of them on now. Of course, WandaVision, and now they have the one for Falcon and Bucky, Winter Soldier. But they really, leading into the story, help reorient me to these characters. Now, like watching those Legends series after, and sort of the highlights of those characters, in particular Wanda and Vision, after this show, I just have such a greater, you really do have a greater appreciation for what this show was really about, which was it really was an origin story of the Scarlet Witch, and at its core, it was dealing with obviously Wanda, and also just really reminded us how much grief and sorrow, and they really, obviously they touched on that throughout the 9 episodes as well, but seeing those Legends the Legends snippets really reminded you like what this character has really been through, and it's a very good complimentary piece to the series. So definitely check those out going into Falcon and Winter Soldier, because I think it'll just help without having to rewatch a whole 2-hour plus feature film. We can really get you reoriented really fast with these characters. Right.
And I mean that. So much between last week and what you just explained, Legends has to offer to explore what led Wanda to this point. What I thought was well done in this episode is they had wrapped that up. We understood the motivation, and so now it was about the reality of the situation. And so when everyone in the town had the spell lifted, and all of their fear and frustration and the actual cruelness in what she's doing to others for her own selfish reasons play out, I thought was a great scene. And I thought it led well to her realizing that even though this is her happiness, it's costing so many other people their unhappiness, that she has to sacrifice the people she loves most in the world.
Yeah. I mean, I thought about that, and I thought about the scenes earlier between Monica and Wanda as well, where she was talking about, Wanda, you don't want to become the villain, and she's like, maybe I am the villain. and and Agatha pointing that out with the townsfolk in the finale, to the place where they were like, if we're really explaining what these poor people were dealing with, and and again, it's just a great storytelling of this series, because whenever the townsfolk are talking about seeing Wanda's dreams and all that stuff, I go back to the Halloween episode of Vision walking through the town, and seeing the people, especially on the edge where they weren't as under Wanda's control, crying in slow motion, and the things there. So you really, again, that just those few lines that the people said in the finale really, really speaks to how well done this show was, because all those things that happened earlier in the series that we saw, it did make for a cohesive whole. And so when Mrs. Hart was like, at least that's what in Wanda's sitcom construct, when she said, just kill us, we'd rather be dead. Right. That really adds more heft to that statement, because of what we've seen in the prior episodes.
Right. Speaking about characters, did you cry when Wanda and Vision said goodbye?
I got choked up. I did because because for me, this series really made me care about these two characters, and I think the place where it got me was when WandaVision teared up when he shed a tear, and then but also when they were talking about when he was saying goodbye again, right? But then saying hello. I mean, I was just like, oh God, just like y'all killing me. You're killing me.
How many lines do they need to give to Vision that need to be on bumper stickers, t-shirts? Just like, can we get a whole book, Vision quotes at this point? Because he says, I didn't cry. I don't think that's a shocker to anybody who listens to the show. I was like, wrap it up, people. How do you
moved at least? Or you moved at least? Did they give you like not necessarily? I know you don't cry, but did you at least be like, okay?
No, I didn't even get like goosebumps. I was completely mentally prepared for the goodbye, because that's there was nothing. There was nothing the way it played out that felt bittersweet. It felt like a needed goodbye and a sweet moment. So it didn't break my heart. And I look forward to the day when the MCU does break my heart.
I don't think I was heartbroken as much as like it was.
We know. You said choked up. You didn't say cry.
I said it was more of a feeling like, and like as I noted with the Legends, just so much that these two people have been through, and here once again, they're being torn apart because of sacrifice for the greater good. And so, but also I knew that, given that the White Vision has his memories, at least the memories, turned back on, whether, so whenever you hear that, we'll see each other again and say, and, another hello. That so clearly I'm thinking somewhere down the line they'll reunite and maybe rekindle what they had, or something new, which will be very interesting to see how that goes, especially given that the White Vision tried to kill her at the very beginning of the episode.
Yeah, I think it's funny because at the end of this episode we have Wanda going off cabin of all places.
Mhm.
And then we have Vision, who we don't know where White Vision went or what is going on with him. And then at the very end, we see Wanda is getting she's getting a handle on her powers, so to speak. She's reading some books.
Yeah.
May not be good books, may not be the best books for her to be reading, but and by she I mean Scarlet Witch, because she has kind of figured out, I guess, how to astral project herself.
Yep.
And then there's some voices. And I think what would have made me get goosebumps at the very least would be them really, and I understand why they didn't based on the post-credit scene, but the goodbye between her and her children. I thought it was a sweet moment, but it didn't. There could have been more, but obviously the kids are not lost.
Right.
And so Doctor Strange, it's already been announced. Nightmare is the villain in Doctor Strange 2, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. So Nightmare has Wanda's kids.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. I think that's going to, yeah.
I like it. I mean, Agatha said, you unlock something, you unleash something. And I mean, for all intents and purposes, Wanda's sitcom, yeah, it was a sitcom, but underneath the surface, it's pretty much a nightmare. So very, very good, short, a lot of mystery, a lot of questions, but like, yeah. Why does it have to be released in March?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I just, like, okay, the Batman and Doctor Strange 2, are you kidding me? This time next year is going to be a glorious time.
It's going to be a very glorious time. Very, very glorious time. But get it? Yeah, I was thinking about that as far as, the setup into Doctor Strange 2, and especially with because that was the big thing that was teased. Feige was all along was very consistent with that this was this was the launching point to that film, and of course everybody was like, took those words and ran with it, as we all know. But given that whenever we see the Scarlet Witch there at the end credit, and we hear her boy, hear Tommy and Billy again, in that scene, and of course her conjuring and of course Agatha teases the Sorcerer Supreme, and whenever she was taunting Wanda, and of course we know at this point the Sorcerer Supreme is Doctor Strange. So so I seeing those I guess when you see the multiverse of madness, and I think you're right. I think probably Nightmare does have her kids. I mean, I think that's with her trying to get her kids back from Nightmare. I think that's where the multiverse will get ripped open, and so so I mean, she's going to have to turn to Strange, even though he may be Sorcerer Supreme, and probably as a Scarlet Witch she may actually be more powerful, but he's more wise and more practiced at the magical arts at this point. So I think that's where she's going to have to rely on him to help her one, just get better control of her magic, but also maybe get her kids back from Nightmare.
Yeah, and we not only have that set up, but we get a scroll in this episode, and Monica is going to the sky. She's going back to the sky to talk to him, which I think the use of he is, it could mean Nick Fury. It could. It could also mean Talos.
It could, because it could, it very well, and I know you made a note here that this could lead to the secret invasion.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely leads there. And, obviously that's another series that is coming in the future. And, so, but I did like Monica's setup. And I've heard this other places too, sort of like how Tony, at the very end of Iron Man, had his moment when Nick Fury comes out and talks to him about the Avengers Initiative, and I felt like Monica seeing the Skrull and again tying it back to Captain Marvel and it was a very nice touch.
Yeah, I've heard that too. I didn't get that many vibes from it just because they didn't say we're here to talk to you about the secret.
Yeah, well, no, but actually, so it's funny. So I was joking with someone earlier in the week after the finale. So honest, I didn't still at the moment when I was watching it and they were like the Luke Skywalker-esque cameo. So honestly, when I was watching the episode, I was like, okay, Nick Fury's gonna walk out of here.
Yeah.
That was who I really thought. That's what I thought was going to happen. But then when a Skrull happened, I was like, okay, all right, that makes sense because we got Skrulls, we got Doctors, we have Captain Marvel. So okay, that's Phase 4. There we go.
Yeah. We got so much. Still no Black Widow yet, but in due time, it's supposed to be in May, I guess. Yeah. Whatever that means. In 2021, whatever a movie theater means, but 2 weeks or next week?
2 weeks.
Soldier and Falcon, 2 weeks.
Yeah, March 19th.
All right. Well,
because March 18th.
Heroverse will have to fill in the meantime.
Yeah,
it's hard to follow this.
It is. Well, and also, if we want to go crazy, we have the 4-hour.
I keep forgetting about the Snyder Cut. You can't. Every time I mention when is Winter Soldier, you keep saying, "Yeah, Sarah, it's coming out here, and that's going to be the same weekend as the Snyder Cut." And I keep telling myself, why do I have this blank in my head? For some reason, we have talked so much about the Snyder Cut. Yeah. I feel like you've told me so many times it's coming in March that for whatever reason, I have.
It's just
you're really gonna have to send me a DM when it drops. You're gonna be like,
I'll send you a DM, shoot you a text. I'm like, Sarah, thanks for I'm watching HBO Max now, so if you don't log in.
Right. Sarah, stop watching BTS and just turn on the Snyder Cut. Work on your puzzle. Just have it on in the background.
Yep.
But yes, we do have the Snyder Cut too, which the saga that will be whatever that is, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
So we got March is quickly becoming a heavy hitter of content. We'll continue that next year. Can't wait for that. And on that note, Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter at Will M. Polk, WILLMPOLK.
And you can find me on Twitter at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at CNN Nerd. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. But most importantly, rate, subscribe, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.